police work and standard practice for many departments across the country. Let's bring in the legal panel. Attorneys Keith Sullivan and David Wall, both specializing in criminal defense. Keith, you sit down and talk to people who are doing bad? I don't know. What's wrong with it?
Absolutely not, Shep. The only thing that has come out of this gang summit is that the city of Chicago has been weakened and the gangs have been strengthened. And we witnessed that today. They, instead of acting independent of one another, got together, they hired a public relations firm, they held a press conference. This is outrageous. This is bad law enforcement. What they have done by sitting down and negotiating with them is essentially baptize them in credibility and legitimacy for the illegal gang activity that's out there on the streets. There's better ways to spend taxpayers' dollars.
David, what do you think?
Absolutely not. You know, these cops are being proactive rather than reactive to the murder, Shep. And this is 2010. They've got to do this. They're not treating these guys like heads of state. But what they're telling them is, look, we know you have authority. We know you can control these murders and maybe even stop some of them. And they're also telling them, look, even if you don't cause the murder or commit the murder, we can get you with federal statutes, such as your racketeering statute, which can end up in the seizure of their homes and cars. This is critical, and it works. Cincinnati, the last 3 years, Shepard, the violent crime rate, the murder rate specifically, down 40%. How are you going to argue with that? Other cities, 60 other cities are doing it, and it's working. Yeah, I don't know how you can argue with it.
Yeah, Keith, he does. The statistics indicate 60 other cities and municipalities have done it, that their death rates are down and their violent crime rates are down in the wake of that. Isn't that some evidence that something like this might be appropriate?
No, Shep, the wonderful thing about statistics is you can make them say whatever you want to say. You can't look at statistics in a vacuum. You have to look at the broader picture. What else have these cities done? What else have they done that Chicago hasn't done yet? And many of these gang summits in the other cities did not include gang members present. The city of Chicago tricked these individuals. They were told by their parole officers to attend this seminar, and lo and behold, the chief of police walks in. They were outraged that they were set up like this and put in the same room. If this is such an effective method, why wasn't there transparency and honesty? It certainly did not work in Chicago, and there was no transparency in Chicago.
They're telling these guys what they're facing, but at the same time, they're giving them a little respect. And 20 years of dealing with gang members.
Why do gangs deserve respect? Why should we respect them?
Here's what they did. Here's the problem. They don't really, Shep, but the reality is, if you give them a modicum of respect in the way you deal with them, rather than using that iron fist approach every time, you're just going to yield better results. That's just the way it works. Now, the cops are also going out and busting these guys. They're seizing guns. They're doing their law enforcement duties, if you will, but they're also telling them, look, we want to be fair to you. The hard hand of law enforcement is going to come down on you if you continue like this, if you don't get a grip on the guys that we know you control. This is a good idea, Shep. LA out here is about to implement it. It's got to be one of the tools at the hands of law enforcement in order to get these murder rates, which, by the way, are falling, further down.
Yeah, murder rates in Chicago down a percentage and a half. Let's compare the first 6 months of 2009 to the first 6 months of 2010. Murder rates down a little bit. Criminal sexual assault down 10%. Robbery down 14%. Aggravated assault down 10%. Arson down 16%. Violent crimes in general down 10%. Their numbers are in the right direction.
So what Chicago should do is keep doing what they've been doing. What they did by holding this summit on April 17th is they have strengthened and unified the gangs of Chicago, and in essence, they've weakened that city. It's going to be a dangerous city.
They haven't weakened anything. And you know what, Shep? There's no indication that they can't use these summits as well to get information on crimes that they may not even know about. So they're multi-purpose, and they serve a good purpose. And look, it's not going to work on them all. Some of these gang members are going to blow it off and say, forget about it, I'm leaving. But some of them won't, and some of them will listen, and that's key.
David Wall and Keith Sullivan, the debate is an interesting one. Thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you, Shep.
Jonathan Hunt discussed